Daniel's middle name here to bring you the latest fantasy news, and just getting it out of the way here at the beginning, I want to go ahead and get all these Star Wars news out of the way, because obviously there's been a lot recently, and I just want to kind of get that out, just kick it out the doors. The Star Wars Episode 9 teaser trailer was dropped. It gave us no real information about the story, except for the fact that Palpatine might be in it, the Death Star is going to be involved, but like the ruins of one, probably the second one, and Rey can now do a backflip. Very cool. It will be called The Rise of Skywalker, or Rise of Skywalker. I didn't pay that close attention. Apparently there is going to be a hiatus of Star Wars movies after Episode 9. I call shenanigans because there's no way Disney's going to stop the money train. They might stop movies for a year or two, or maybe even just episodic movies for a year or two, but we're still getting video games, TV shows, animated shows, toys. They're not stopping the Star Wars money train. They're just trying to seem like they have the patience to, and they're going to put the main movies to rest while they come up with an actual storyline, because this last one, they didn't come up with a story in the first place. They just had every new director and writer come up with new additions to what the last one did, which is just a terrible way to write a story. Can you imagine if after like the first Song of Ice and Fire book, that story was just placed in another author's lap? J.K. Rowling inherited A Song of Ice and Fire. Don't do that. Moving on. We got a teaser image for the new Fallen Order. Apparently KTSO, voiced by Alan Tudyk, will be back for a live-action series. It also seems that Disney Plus will have all Star Wars related content on it that Disney owns as well, including all the movies, TV shows, etc., etc. Surprising no one. Everyone knew Disney was going to do this, but this is apparently news, and it's coming this November, as well as debuting The Mandalorian. If you are a VR fanatic like myself, you might be excited to hear that there will be a Star Wars VR game called Vader Immortal.
A word of advice. Do not anger Vader.
Now that Vader's found you, he is in reach of enormous power. You must escape.
And our future is in your hands. Vader is here.
All the links in the description down below, including the trailer for this new VR game. I do recommend holding off for the Rift S if you have not bought one yet. It's a reasonable price for a good new machine. And now we're going to transition out of Star Wars into a fantasy news opinion spew. I'm allowed to do this. It's my show. I want to give a quick opinion. The future of fantasy games, in my opinion, is in VR. And as you know, there's a good argument that most future of gaming is in VR, and that's just where we're all going to transition. I get that. But what I really want to see is if we are going to get a Wheel of Time video game, if we are going to get a Stormlight Archive video game, even though we already had like a brief little Stormlight Archive VR game, but it wasn't like a full game. If we're going to get AAA level titles for these fantasy games, I personally want to see them in VR, because being immersed in the magic system in that way, experiencing the world. Already, VR Skyrim is incredible, amazing to walk around in. If we can get something on that caliber, which is an 11-year-old game at this point, I believe, for the Wheel of Time, Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones, Stormlight Archive, Mistborn, what have you, that, in my opinion, is just the future and would be amazing. I can't imagine how incredible it would be to fly around as a coin shot in the Mistborn world in VR. Can you imagine that? That shit would be dope! Now back into the actual, real fantasy news. Let's go. Another Stephen King adaptation has been announced. Thank you, Dad, for sending me this one, called Lissie's Story. Lissie's Story? You know me and names. And it will be directed by J.J. Abrams, who, after taking all this time for Star Wars, makes sense that he might want to go for a more, you know, smaller thing. And while this is by no means small, it's Stephen King, I doubt it's on the corporate product level that he's been having to deal with on Star Wars. And I'm excited to see what J.J. Abrams can bring to a Stephen King story. Think there's gonna be lens flares in the Stephen King story? You want some lens flares? In fellow YouTuber news, The Savior's Story is going to be available on Audible and has been available for purchase as a book for a while. The book was written by fellow YouTuber Jenna Morrissey. Again, again, me and names. And the audiobook will be narrated by Nick Denton, who sounds like, like the sexy Shakespearean British. He got his voice on it. Good job, good work, good pick. Let's go ahead and list all the trailers that have come out recently. Game of Thrones trailer, as I previously mentioned, a Star Wars trailer. A Fight for Their Souls, The Dead Don't Die, Lucifer, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, and we got a promotional poster for the Dragon Prince Season 3. There have been new leaks from, there have been new leaks from the upcoming Witcher adaptation set, and they're of the new character Triss. She looks awfully good in these leaks. Netflix has had enough leaks that I'm calling shenanigans once again. They're not leaking things, they're releasing it to the public. It just gets more eyes on it to say a leak. So yes, they have put out more promotional images for The Witcher, and I think it looks good. I got no problems here. I'm not going to include them here in this video because I know some people consider like character designs and stuff to be a spoiler until the show actually wants it released, so link once again in the description down below. And in I can't believe I missed it while I was filming news, prosthetics work has begun in Prague for the upcoming Wheel of Time adaptation. Very cool. Thank you for supplying the story. I have no idea how I missed that. Yes, prosthetic work, upcoming Wheel of Time show, it's in the works. Prague! And we're going to shift into the final fantasy news story. An article was recently written by winteriscoming.com that claimed the Wheel of Time adaptation over at Amazon is Amazon's most anticipated show, despite them having such huge heavyweights attached to them like Lord of the Rings. This was based off a poll the Prime Video Twitter account put out, where the Wheel of Time won handily. And if you're a gigantic nerd like me, you probably got a little curious just how many votes each contender within the poll got. Well, I sat down and did the math, because I'm a huge nerd. Coming in fourth, you had The Lord of the Rings with 4,810 votes, or 18% of the total poll. In third, you had Good Omens with 5,345 points, or 20% of the poll. In second place, you had The Expanse with 6,948 votes, or 26% of the vote. And in first place, you had The Wheel of Time with 36% of the vote, or 9,621 votes. And every answer actually had a decimal, so obviously they rounded. Or they have partial people voting. And this was a poll where the Wheel of Time fan base showed up strong, and I just want to say to the Wheel of Time fans out there, congratulations. Small things can lead to bigger consequences, and this one poll is now having articles written about it, which I'm sure the people in charge of PR over at Amazon are going to be taking note of, and could have long-term ramifications for the upcoming Wheel of Time TV show in terms of their investment, seeing how strong the fan base is there and their support. So honestly, good job. I'm proud of you guys. There was a lot of momentum and work to get as many votes out there as possible from the fandom, and I think we did show Amazon that we're here, we're invested, and we're down. We will buy your Wheel of Time merch. Put out some like swords and cloaks and daggers. I'll buy all of it. I'll support it. I'll give all my money to a giant corporate entity just so I can get the one TV show that I really, really want to be good. I have no solar standards. Do it! You think I'm joking? I'm not. Now that the news is over, I actually wanted to shift into a new thing we're going to be trying here on Fantasy News called Fantasy News Polls, where we'll talk about the results in the next episode of Fantasy News. In the pinned comment down below, let me know what fantasy series in all of fantasydom, that's a word, would you most like to see a video game based off of, whether in VR or not? But let me know, would you want to see this game that you are pitching in VR? Let me know if you'd like it to be open world, side-scrolling, dungeon crawler. No, just want it to be like a bar simulator set in your favorite fantasy world? I'm curious. Let me know in the comments down below, and I will go over some of my favorites in the next episode of Fantasy News. It's a good way to, encourage audience interaction. It's the kind of news. It's the news of how the fandom feel. How's the fandom feeling about some games? Why am I going so high-pitched? How much higher can I go? Anyway, y'all, this has been Fantasy News. Thank you for tuning in. I look forward to talking to you next week. Like and subscribe if you have not already. Hit the Patreon if you want to support the news. And have a good one, y'all. Peace!